What's the nature of the universe we live in? What is our relationship to the larger reality?
I looked up and all of a sudden there was this, gotta say it, flying saucer.
Didn't even make a sound, not even a sound.
A little bit of swamp light appears here, it goes out, another one appears over here, that goes out.
Белый, ярко-белый.
And it was just gone.
Il s'est posé, il est reparti. I saw one, but I don't know what, it just disappeared.
There's nothing to hide.
There's nothing to hide at all.
I was a part of a United States Air Force cover-up for 18 years.
There's no way within the military or within the government of keeping track of something that is classified.
UFO.
It clearly had a shape to it, and a big shape.
This should be the subject of rigorous scientific investigation and not the subject of rubbishing by tabloid newspapers.
For the last 50 years, 95% of all UFO incidents have been explained in down-to-earth conventional terms. These explanations include misidentified aircraft, weather balloons, atmospheric phenomena, light aberrations, mass hallucinations, hoaxes, and swamp gas. However, these explanations cannot be applied to the remaining 5%. The cumulative evidence in these cases leads towards a possible conclusion that some UFOs are not of Earth origin. In 1965, Gordon Cooper was the last American astronaut to go up into space alone. 10 years earlier, while stationed at Edwards Air Force Base, Cooper witnessed an event that has yet to be explained nearly 50 years later. Suddenly, a saucer-like craft flew directly over the cameraman. 3 landing gear apparatus opened, and the object landed on the dry lake bed.
They're just typical saucer shape, double lenticular shape, metallic. And they went out, picked up their cameras and moved on out toward him filming. And he lifted off, put the gear back in the well, and climbed out at a very high rate of speed and disappeared.
Cooper had the film footage of the strange craft developed. After the developed film was sent by plane to Washington, it was never seen or heard of again.
Did you ever keep in touch with anybody about it or discuss it?
How would I keep in touch with anybody about it? There's no way within the military or within the government of keeping track of something that is classified, unless you're directly involved in it, and I was not.
What we photographed up there affected me for the rest of my life.
In 1964, former U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Bob Jacobs was in the 1369th Photo Squadron at Vandenberg Air Force Base in California.
And Major Vansman said, "Watch this," and turned on the film projector. And I watched the screen, and there was the launch from a day or two before it at Big Sur. As the Atlas missile entered the frame, we could see the whole third stage, which has 2 rocket nozzles like this and one in the center, a gimbaled one in the center, filling our frame from about 160 miles. That was pretty exciting optics. And then on that telescope, we could see the warhead, the dummy warhead.
According to Jacobs, at this stage the rocket was traveling between 11 and 14,000 miles per hour when a saucer-shaped craft entered the frame.
It flew into the frame like this, and it shot a beam of light at the warhead. Now, remember, all this stuff is flying at several thousand miles an hour. So this thing fires a beam of light at the warhead, hits it, fires another beam of light, and then flies out the way it came in. And the warhead tumbles out of space. Now when the lights came on, Major Mansman turned around and looked at me and said, "Were you guys screwing around up there?" And I said, "No, sir." And he said, "What was that?" And I said, "It looks to me like we got a UFO."
140 miles north of London is Bentwaters, England. In December of 1980, a United States Air Force base armed with nuclear weapons was reportedly the site of a series of UFO encounters over a 3-day period.
There's no doubt about it. There's some type of strange flashing red light ahead. It's yellow. I saw a yellow tinge in it too. Weird. It appears that he may be moving a little bit this way. It's brighter than it has been. Yellow. It's coming this way. It is definitely coming this way.
Responding to reports of a possible downed aircraft, 3 patrolmen were sent out to Rendlesham Forest to investigate.
Well, the controller on the radio broadcast over the air that go down and check out a possible UFO.
Another security officer present was Airman First Class John Burroughs.
So it was like me, it was Peniston, me, and then Cabanzak to my right.
It was apparent that it wasn't an aircraft crash. We knew that much.
Staff Sergeant Jim Peniston was sent down to lead Burroughs and Cabansag to investigate the object.
There was a craft of some sort that was sitting just inside the tree line. Just as Burroughs and I entered the tree line, the shape of the craft was defined. The closer we got, the more the white light dissipated, but what appeared was a triangular craft. When we approached it, it was, I say it measured probably about 9 feet long, maybe 6 feet high, a little higher, maybe 6.5 feet. The lighting emanated from the fabric of the craft, and it would actually move around. I mean, it would move. You'd have different locations where maybe a little blue lighting was going into it, or maybe a little red. And then there must have been some type of lighting underneath of it because it silhouetted the aircraft itself. What I did that night is I had my notebook with me. I went around and started doing a 360 walk around the area, taking, recording my observations. I was looking underneath the craft like that. I had taken quite detailed notes on that. Type of aircraft still unknown. No apparent landing gear. No sound, but appears to be pulsating somehow.
Yeah, it was pretty nerve-wracking. I mean, there's something there right in front of you, you don't know what it is.
I would go ahead and feel the craft, which was warm. There was static electricity in the air. Very warm to touch. Identifying markings are on left front side. As I came around to the one side of the craft, there was etching on the faced me just above the center part of the craft itself. Of course, this is done all freehand as I was walking around the craft, but these symbols ran from left to right across, and then underneath that line of symbols was this, which is triangular, and some type of circle here, some type of circle here, and a larger circle here. And of course, all this was filled in with the etching part of it, like you had etched glass. So those symbols were raised, and they had a different feel than the rest of the fabric of the craft. Liftoff occurred at 2:45 with no sound, no air disturbance, and no other identifying markings. Myself and at that time Burroughs, we were at a fairly good distance, maybe 30 feet away from it, and we had taken a defensive position on the ground.
I mean, it was threatening to me, but it wasn't the type that you were going to shoot on it. And also the fact was that, what would happen if I would have shot at him? What good would it have done?
And then it started moving back in between the trees with absolutely no sound, no air disturbance at all.
Whatever it was went up and shot back up out over the trees, just like he was there and was gone.
Takeoff, unknown speed, and I write, impossible.
We simply were told not to talk about it. We did not talk about it to anyone.
As a Strategic Air Command launch controller, Lieutenant Colonel Robert Salas was one of the men responsible for the deployment of nuclear Minuteman missiles.
3, 2, 1, key turn.
These missiles were to be launched as a counterattack in the event of nuclear war. On March 16, 1967, Lieutenant Colonel Salas was on duty when he was contacted by his topside guard, stating that there was an unidentified object above the missile site.
Combat control, we advise initiating area.
Salas ordered the guard to observe and report back on any further development.
Then he called back within a few minutes and was very frightened. I could tell by his voice he was extremely agitated.
In case some of these people in the future or now should turn hostile, to find out who they are, where they come from, and what they want.
Well, if the accounts are to be believed, yes, there have been ET visitation, there have been crashed craft, there have been material and bodies recovered.
In October of 1969, President Jimmy Carter, who was then governor of Georgia, had a UFO sighting. He filed a report with the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena. At a recent book tour, we asked President Jimmy Carter about his sighting.
What happened to
the UFO thing?
I don't really know what happened to it. I saw one, but I don't know what, it just disappeared.
Did you ask when you were president? What he said?
Yes, but there's a lot of different answers, and nobody has proof of things.
I think it's time to open the books.
In October of 2002, former White House Chief of Staff John Podesta urged the release of secret government UFO records. He cited the importance to the public of declassifying government documents.
It's time to find out what the truth really is that's out there. We ought to do it really because it's right. We ought to do it because the American people, quite frankly, can handle the truth. And we ought to do it because it's the law.
The discovery that we are being visited by extraterrestrials would be one of the greatest in human history. Such a discovery would profoundly alter the perception of ourselves and our place in the universe.